airplanes. 91 years old, and I still fly. And don't ask me if I got a license, but I hate to lie. But anyway, I graduated from high school in 1941, 18 years old, in May. And just think, when we graduated in May, we had no idea what was going to be happening 6 months from there. You know, 6 months from my graduation, we were in war. So, all us young boys were cannon fodder. And so I enlisted. I knew I'd be drafted eventually, so I enlisted. Because I wanted to get in the Air Force. And by enlisting, you go in with a different attitude. You're asking for it. You're not being told to do something. I was kind of a old-headed kid. I didn't like to be told to do it, so I asked for it. So I went in with it, kind of a different attitude towards military. So, at 18, we got on a troop train and went to Fort Sheridan, Illinois. That's right along Lake Michigan there. Colder than the devil. It was about 30 below zero. We stayed there a couple of days and picked up our uniforms and stuff. We got on a troop train and headed south. Here we are with long underwear, woolen pants, and big overcoat. We didn't know where we were going, but we kept going south, and it kept getting hotter, and we kept taking clothes off. We finally wound up right down the main street of St. Petersburg, Florida. And I'm telling you, we were a sad-looking bunch of guys. Been on that troop train for 4 or 5 days with all those damn woolens on. So I took my basic training at a big, huge hotel, Bellevue, Biltmore. In fact, now, that's in Clearwater, Florida, they're having quite a discussion whether they should tear it down or if it's a historical landmark. But anyway, that's where we stayed, and then we do our basic training on a golf course in the morning. And when I was in high school, I played football, captained the basketball team. I was pretty athletically. I don't know what to say. Yeah, I could handle myself pretty good. So anyway, the old sergeant, he'd say, "Put your gas masks on and march." And under my gas mask, I'd say, "You dirty." And they, "Who has said that?" And he's, "All right, double time." And they'd make us, and nobody knew who was hollering at the sergeant. They knew they'd have probably killed me, because some of those guys, "Oh, who's saying that? Shut up." And I laughed. I was having a good time. Those other guys, they'd have killed me if they'd have found out who was that dumb guy in Wisconsin hollering at that sergeant. So anyway, after we took the basic training, we went over to Gulfport, Mississippi, went to mechanic school there, and out in swamps, they had old airplanes, and we were supposed to work on these old airplanes under combat conditions. So we had our gas masks laying handy where we could get them, and every once in a while a Jeep would go through and throw out tear gas, and you were supposed to run and get your gas mask and put it on, thinking it was gas. Well, those guys kept looking at mine kind of funny, and I walked over and I gave it a kick, and out rolled a damn snake. They'd taken a snake and put in my gas. Why, I got it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, gee! I probably fainted right there. So then, later on, out in Amarillo, Texas, some kid caught a rattlesnake or a snake out. They go out on the runway at night where it's warm. He caught it. He was running around the hangar chasing everybody. I said, "Hey, let me take it. Let me take it." I was scared to hell. But I was using reverse psychology. You know I'm having too much fun, so he left me alone. Oh boy, am I getting smart. So anyway, went to school there. Then when I graduated there, I went up to Willow Run, Michigan. where they made the B-24s at the Ford plant. Now there's another story, what old Henry Ford did. How, this is one reason the United States won the war. How they converted all these plants to producing war weapons. Like Henry, he was building B-24 bombers, he was building boats. He even made a channel into one of his factories so he could manufacture boats. Tents, he made every damn thing. But anyway, I went to Will Run, Michigan, where they made the B-24s as a crew chief. And when we got out of there, we flew to St. Paul, to down at the Holman Airport, and that's where they put the Northern bomb sight on. And at night, they take those Northern bomb sights off and take them up, put them in the bank vault. They were that secretly. And we go up over Lake Superior and test them, drop bombs on targets, testing out the bomb sites. But those bombs, the Northern bomb sites, were very secretly. So we were in stayed at the old Ryan Hotel, I think it was on Fifth Avenue. And we were there for about 3 or 4 weeks, which was good. I could get home a couple weekends in because I lived over in Wisconsin. From there, went out to Wendover, Utah. I flew with the B-24 out there and came in at night. Jesus, lights. Boy, am I getting into a big city here. I woke up the next morning and all I could see was salt flats for miles. Salt flats. All it was just a can. And that was Wendover, Utah. And that's where I went to gunnery school there. And that's where Tibbets did all his training with the B-29 at Wendover, Utah. And so we left Wendover, Utah. We went up to Galvin Field, Boise, Colorado, and started to form our groups, combat groups on the plane. And I got acquainted with some of these other fellows in another group, and I was supposed to go along as an engineer, but they needed a belly gunner. And I said, geez, I'd like to go with you guys. I really got to know them, really friendly and really close buddies. So they said, well, we need a belly gunner. See if you can get relief from your crew. Come with us. So I talked to my pilot. He said, yeah, go ahead. So I had never trained in a belly gun or Walter. That's this conversation position right there. And my first mission over North Africa, I crawled down in that thing, and I was tall for the position, and I crawled up down in there and shut that hatch, and I thought, what in hell am I getting myself into? But after I flew a few missions, I was, 120 pounds in bulk. I got used to it. I kind of liked it. I was down there by myself for a while. But you didn't have any parachute down there or anything. You were all by yourself. And so we flew a brand new B-24 over, went down to Brazil and then over to Dakar, Africa. And we had a crate of homing pigeons with us, and if we went down, we were supposed to release the homing pigeons, and they would notify me we're in distress. But we went at night because we had just enough gas to get there, and we went by celestial, by the stars, because it's the most accurate navigation you can get. So we get over to North Africa. We just got these brand new jackets, the A2 jackets, and we flipped the coin to see who was going to stay and guard that plane while the rest of us could go into town. Well, I lost, so I had to stay back and guard the plane. And so the boys, they all jumped on the truck, going to town, into Casablanca, and the pilots and the co-pilot and all them. And they got off, and they went up the street, and the MPs picked the enlisted men up and said, hey, you guys are out of uniform. Well, there goes our pilots, they'll vouch for us. No, you come with us. Well, the infantry didn't really like the Air Force, because they thought the Air Force was a little, they were kind of hot shots, a little envious. So they put him in the jail. And there they sat, so sober. And I'm back at the tent, thinking I'm missing something. And as the night goes on, they started getting colder, and the drunks started coming in, and they were sick, and there was a big bullpen, and there they sat, slow and sober, you know. And so the next day we got ready to take up. Hey, where's the crew? No crew. So they looked around, found out this. They were still in jail in Casablanca. I thought I was missing something. So anyway, in the meantime, that night, our co-pilot, he was a little funny, but he traded some of his uniform for an Arab outfit. And he opened up my flap of the tent, and another guy said, hey, you weren't going to let that Arab get away with that. And I looked up, saw that Arab, and I took off, and here we go across the sand dunes. And I thought, holy Jesus, what if he turns around and shoots me? And he thought, what if he shoots me? And he finally said, hey, it's me, it's your co-pilot. Oh, you dumps. But then we put our arms around each other. But anyway, he only flew a couple missions, and he went berserk. Our pilot was a hotshot, college graduate, kind of a know-it-all guy, and I think he intimidated this poor co-pilot. If he'd had to fly that plane home, he'd have never made it. And he finally went berserk, and they grounded him. So we flew 15 missions out of Italy, and we found such places as the Balesti oil fields, and Romania oil fields and marshalling yards. We flew 15 missions out of Italy in these old, they took the our brand new B-24 that we flew over. It was one of those silver ones. They didn't paint them any longer. They were silver, and it was a nice shiny one. And the general or colonel or somebody said, hey, I want that nice new plane. And they gave us this old beat-up 17. So I flew all my missions on B-17s, and people would say, well, which plane did you like the best? Well, the 17 got me home, so I'm kind of a little partial for that. But we flew 15 missions out of Italy. Then we went up to England for D-Day, and my first mission up there was June 12th, that's 6 days after the landing of Normandy. And you could look down and see all the ships, like they say, you could walk across the channel, there were so many. And so we get up to Italy, or up to England, and they say, up here we fly close formation. That is our secret of protection, is close formation. So if you can't fly close formation, you'll have to practice. So our pilot said, all right, we'll show you how we can fly close. He tucked that wing right into that plane next to us, and that waist gunner and that kid was going, get away, get away, get away, and we were waving like a 19-year-old kid full of hell that didn't care if we lived or died. But he was scared. But those kids, those guys, 19, 20, 21 years old, flying those heavy bombers without much training, would get in tight formations, and then you'd get the prop wash from the planes ahead of you, and you'd be dancing, and then you'd release your bombs, and woo, and how they held those planes in formation. I tell you, they did a good job. I take my hat off to them. And so anyway, I had a buddy, That was our original crew. This guy here, he got killed in Italy. When we left Italy, there was another tail gunner, had an Italian girl pregnant, so they wanted to get him out of the country, so they put him on our crew and left this boy down in Italy. And we found out later, he was a tail gunner. He got hit with a piece of flak and hurt his back, but he could have gone home, disabled, he could have gone home, but he says, no, I want to stay and finish my missions. So he stayed, and they were flying in formation, and a plane next to him, the waist gunner went berserk and shot their plane. This happens, I mean, that's what they call flak happy. They just get nutty. And so they shot the plane, and the pilots, two or three of the crew bailed out. And he said, if you want to stay with the plane, I'm going to try to ditch you in the ocean. And this tail gunner stayed with it. Well, they were all killed. So, coming through Colorado, that guy got killed. We were on his troop train, and we were standing on that little platform where they connect cars together. And he said, oh, there's my uncle's ranch, there's so-and-so's ranch. And we were going right through his territory. And by God, we came to a crossing, railroad crossing, and hey, there's my brothers. Here's two brothers, we're at a railroad crossing, and they waved and he recognized it, and they beat it backed up, went down to the next railroad crossing, he hollered, Denver. So they went home, and he was from Greeley, Colorado. So he went home, got his mother and his sister, and they met Gus in Denver, and that was the last we saw of him. But just think, going through the countryside, seeing your brother sitting at the railroad crossing, you know, it blows your mind. Things like that. So that was this is our crew in England. Now, Judy was writing a book. She's written a book about me, and this pilot here, somehow she got on the internet and got a hold of, this was,
daughter-in-law.
he was her father-in-law. Yes, this was her father-in-law, and she sent me that picture. I never had a picture like that. But it was her father-in-law that was our pilot. I just, you know, that's somebody, you know. So, I'll show you. We'll get find Chris for you. Now this boy here, he was my classmate. He and I were co-captains of basketball, and there was a kid from another town flew a J5 Cub, and he could land right by our school, and he flew it in. And one recess, he said, "Do you want to go for a ride?" Yeah, we'll go for a ride. He said, "Oh, how much do you weigh?" And I said, 120 pounds. He said, "How much do you weigh, Chris?" He said, 125 pounds. But he was a big husky farm kid. And geez, we took off, and he hardly got over these trees. And we got back, and he says, "Are you sure you told him how much he weighed?" And I said, "Well, no, I weighed." Oh, he says, "You don't know how close we come to crashing." But anyway, he's 19 years old, flying a P-51. And he flew over to my base, and I was supposed to meet him in London for his 20th birthday. He already was an ace at 19. He was supposed to be the youngest ace of both wars, World War I, World War II. So anyway, I went to London, he never showed up, so next time I got a pass, I caught a ride over to his base, and I talked to his wingman, and he was strafing an airfield, and you have to get down below the flak towers. So when he went to pull up, his wing caught and flipped him. He looked back and said all he could see was a ball of fire. And it wasn't too much longer after I talked to that wingman, he was strafing a train, and the train blew up and he was killed. So there were a lot of accidents like that rather than aerial combat fighting one-on-one. But just think, putting a 19-year-old kid in an airplane full of gasoline and say, go get them, you know, they're indispensable. It's like putting a farm kid in a pickup on Saturday night and say, hey, go to town and have a good time, you know. So when he left my base, I went out and stood on an air raid shelter back of the Quonset hut, kind of looking almost right down above that door. And he did, I could not see him, he was down so low. And when he went full up, he did 6 rolls, then I snapped that picture of him. So that was the last I saw of Chris. But, quite a kid. But, you know, that's what they wanted, 19, 20-year-old kids that were fearless. His commanding officer was married and had a family. And if they'd see some fighters down there, he'd never attack them. And Chris, you know, he'd peel off and pursue and attack them. And they were a good escort. I remember one time we got hit by fighters. We were flying. I was flying with a new crew that day, and we were flying Tail and Charlie. They always put the new ones back, and they called them Tail and Charlie. And they knocked an engine out. And I called up to the pilot and said, gee, call for escort, call for escort. Oh, am I supposed to? I said, who the hell else knows we're hit back here? Well, in the meantime, our lead pilot heard, you guys in trouble? Yeah. So he says, we'll show up, we'll tuck you in. So they did, but in the meantime, coming out of the clouds, these 2 P-51s came. And they put the run on those German fighters. But they were quite an airplane. Now, Judy, can you think of anything? You know, I have to kind of laugh. Today they get out there and here it's 70 years since Normandy, you know, the invasion of Normandy. A historical time in our lives. And they get down there and they, well, thanks for the air show and all this BS. Why the hell aren't they thanking the veterans who landed on Omaha and all those beaches that were killed, you know? You can't change the world. I cried. But I'm lucky I'm here, and I'm lucky I'm good spirit. The longevity, I'm 91, the longevity too is being an upper. You know, hey, get up in the morning and say, oh, it's raining. Well, let it rain, what the hell? You know, you what? Do something creative. Be an upper. You know, have a smile on your face. Any questions?
Okay. Were you always a ball turret gunner, or did you switch positions within waist gunners?
Huh?
Did you always?
I flew one mission as a waist gunner. And so I took 2 flak suits along. I thought, my God, I'm going to be well protected up there. Down here, you didn't have any flak suits or parachute or anything. Everything was up the plane. You just sat there, you know, no place to go. So up there, I was going from one side. Oh, maybe if I'm over here, I won't get hit. Maybe I'm over here. I was going back and forth. I'm getting tired. I thought, God, stand in one place. You had to talk to yourself a lot. You know? So when you're down in the waist ball turret, you know, when the pilot had to take a leak, he'd say, stow your turret, so you'd bend it around and it would splash on your back. Well, we had a new co-pilot one time, and something started splashing on my little window, and I called up and I says, hey, we either got a gas tank leak or something too late. Oh, he says, I forgot to tell this new co-pilot this way. Hey, I said, I can't see anything, it's just solid ice. 30 below zero. So he said, oh, you might as well come up with the waist gun and take the waist gun. So took the waist gun. Our parachutes were up, mine was up in the plane, and my shoes were tied to it. And now I think about it. What if we'd got in the spin and I had to get out? Oh, where's my parachute? You know, it could have been way back at the tail end. I should have had it secured to something, you know. Never thought about it. A little late now. You're lucky I didn't need it.
How long were you stuck in the ball turret? How many hours did you have to fly
I'd
there?
be down there, we'd never get in until we got over the French coast. And then we'd reach 10,000 feet, and they'd say, take your positions. And then coming home, when we see the, we see the White Cliffs of Dover. You've heard that song, there'll be bluebirds over the White Cliffs of Dover. So I was down at Oshkosh. And this little gal was up there singing, entertaining the group. And she's singing this song, and I said to Judy, geez, did that bring back memories? So I walked right up to her and tapped her on the shoulder and started telling her. She says, do you mind if I finish my song? So last year, we walked by her, and she was singing that same song, and I walked right up to her, and she looked, not you again. So she gave me a kiss to the cheek, and we correspond now, we're good friends. But you know, we were just down to New Orleans, and to that museum down there, and we during the day we take the trolley and ride around New Orleans, and there was this black family, and this little gal, she's in 6th grade, and finally, I said, do you want to sit? I had a seat over. So she sat down, and she started telling me how they came down to visit the museum, and they were studying World War II history, and Judy gave her a pamphlet from my books that she wrote, and when they got ready to get off, she put her arm around me and said, thank you. And, God, you know, it just almost brought tears to it. It was the best thing that happened that whole trip down there was that little black girl appreciating what we've done, you know.
2 quick questions. Number 1, did the Air Force have any limitation on the size of the person that could fit in that turret? And number 2 question, what was the caliber of weapons that you had? Did you have 50s there?
Yeah, 250.
Okay.
I just lost my hearing, and I contributed because those guns were right along my ears. You know, they were right along your leg, both legs, and you were rolled up in that turret. So yeah.
Did the turret shake when you
It spun
shot
right
him?
around. You could go just like that.
Did it shake
but
when
it'd
you
go up
shot
this
him?
way. What is it?
Did it shake when you shot him, or was it?
No, God, it's just a ball of metal, you know. And the only armor plating we really had was what we sat on. Everything else was kind of plexiglass and stuff. So you didn't have any flak suit or any armament, only what you sat on. But, you know, you'd be down there for 8-9 hours. You know, take that little guy, he can't sit still for 10 minutes. You know, I'd take a Reader's Digest or something. You know, there were times when it did get monotonous. And I was reading one time in this Reader's Digest about Zip Coon from Sway City, Iowa. And he and another guy, they were on Omaha, one of those beaches, and they went up, climbed up the hill and attacked the pillbox and were famous. So our engineer was from Sway City, Iowa. It's just a little town in Iowa. I called up on the intercom and I says, hey, do you know Zip Coon? Oh yeah, good for nothing guy. Hey, I says, he's in Reader's Digest, and you're just standing up there. And, well, what about him? And so I had to tell him what I'd read. And later on, we looked up on him. And quite a guy. I think the guy with him got the Congressional Medal of Honor, I'm not sure. But it's a small world. Yeah. So any more questions?
How many of your missions were over Europe?
They were all over Europe.
Oh,
15 out of Italy.
yes.
That took Romania, oil fields, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, northern France, and yeah, these were all on Italy. And then we went up, like I say, we went up to England for D-Day, and we started flying up there.
Thank you.
At Ploesti, that was highly defended by anti-aircraft, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, because that was their main source of oil supplies for all the German equipment. There were 5 on that. I wasn't on the first one, but that first one with Killer Kane led it. There were 5 Congressional Medal of Honors given on that one mission. That's the most Medal of Honors ever given in any battle. And there were 5 of them given on that. I mean, some are close, goodness me.
Start
Yeah,
with
that-
oil.
I don't have a question. I want to thank you for your service.
Well, thanks. I'm lucky to be here talking to you people because you're interested in history. And we go to Oshkosh every year, and we got the ball tour, and I stand by it. And people say, "Are you writing this down?" She tells Judy, "Are you writing this down?" No. Next year they come along, "Have you started writing this down?" No. So she says, "You know, I should start writing some of this down." So I kept all my mother kept all my letters, and I kept all of Chris's letters, his P-51 pilot, and I kept a diary. So she had a lot of material, pictures and stuff to go by, and she put a book together, and it really turned out good.
That's him on the cover. That's him on the back. Gosh, got into it again.
Are you selling those over in the tent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're down in the white tent.
Oh, okay.
It starts out with, during the Depression, you know, hey, I remember when Dillinger was roaming the country. You know, I was born in 23, so he was there in 30. You know, I was 6 years old. And bootleg days, you know, I mean, this is, what I'm telling you today is history that's being lost if somebody isn't telling you this. You know, it's a shame. So many people come by and say, "Oh, my grandpa or my dad," well, did he ever tell you? No, he never said. They didn't know diddly dumps what their grandpa did. Their uncle or somebody. You know. Like my grandpa Standish, Senator Miles, he came over to Mayflower. If I had talked to him more about the Civil War, I'd treasure those stories. But you didn't as a kid, you know? But I think people like you and now are getting a little more concerned about past history, you know, like the greatest generation.
So we've lost so many World War II guys. I mean, are there any kind of key takeaways or life lessons that we can pass on to the little guys?
You do what? You join?
No, no.
No, I can't follow you.
Okay.
What,
I'm just, you know, my grandfather's passed away. I'm wondering what kind of things you think we can tell the younger children about World War II.
No, because they all got a mind of their own. You know, you can't tell a kid, go join the army. He's got to do it by himself.
Have them read all the books they can read. And talk.
You know,
Yeah, figure it out for themselves.
I come from a small town, and some of these guys, they joined the army, and they got the Bill of Rights. And one became a lawyer, another became a superintendent of schools, and another a mother's assistant. If they wouldn't have gone into the service and got their GI Bill, they'd have been pumping gas or working at the grocery store. So it did help a lot of them, you know. And getting back to high school, our senior class, they took us to a CCC camp. You ever hear of the CCC camp? That was a great place for helping young people during the Depression. A lot of these guys would send money home to their parents, kept them going. You know, Roosevelt, he had the WPA, you know, and he put these people to work instead of giving them relief. My mother worked on the WPA. My dad was disabled, and we were hard up and getting welfare probably. And my mom went to work as a WPA doing some sewing or something like that. But at least you worked, you earned some money. And nowadays it's just hand out. What do you got, Sonny? Oh, you
Two questions here. Where, Wisconsin, are you from?
south of Eau Claire. I got an airport down there.
South of Eau Claire, a little town by the name of,
Monotony.
I know where Monotony is, yes, okay. The second question is,
How many airplanes I got? I got 6.
you got 6, okay.
They all won't fly, but.
When you were flying over Europe here, the Luftwaffe, what did they fly? Were they good planes?
109s.
109s?
Yeah.
But the P-51 was the star when that
Yeah,
came
yeah.
out, is that right?
Right.
Okay,
They had to get out maneuver and all.
they could.
And it was skill, you know. The Luftwaffe was getting down on their pilots too. They lost a lot of them. Now, this is a piece of flak that I picked out of one of my engines on my last mission. It's a big hunk of metal, and that's flak. Flak was our most dangerous. We could shoot back at fighters, but we couldn't do anything. All we could do was throw out what they call chaff. It was like tinsel that you put on Christmas trees, and you throw that out and it floated down and it screw up the radar. Whether it did any good or not, but boy, it sure, I sure throw all more chaff, throw all more chaff. But this stuff would come at you. It was red hot. The aluminum was still on it, or it melted the aluminum and it went through the collar. But this is an awfully big piece. Usually they're just fingertips. But that was our most feared. You could see the red explosion, smell the smoke, and you just had to wade right through it. Nothing you could do. And they knew your altitude, 30,000 feet. They'd put her right up there where you were. Any more? What did we eat? Well, we didn't eat prunes for breakfast. We didn't eat a hell of a lot. Probably powdered eggs or something like that. And then we would come back. Down in Italy, the officers always kept the whiskey. But when we got up in England, when we came back from the Michigan, they'd give you a shot of whiskey and kind of relax you, and say, well, some of them wouldn't take their, you were on an empty stomach for 8 hours, you take a bottle of whiskey, and some of them wouldn't take theirs, and they just have a couple of them. Now, what'd you see today? Oh, Jesus, well, they really got the stories out of you. They made you relax. They said one day, did you see anything different today? Well, I said, something went by awfully fast. Well, they said, you just encountered your first jet. But that thing went by, you couldn't even kind of shoot it. Here's another question. How many planes did you shoot down? Well, the biggest flyer got the most. We never know. We never know who got the plane. We were all shooting at. For fighters, they had the camera. You know, when they got a kill, they got a verified kill. But we didn't. We just, oh, I got him. Right on the sky. I couldn't see. So, what else, Judy? I have to ask Judy. She's heard these stories so many times. But I'm lucky to be here, and I'm glad you folks came to listen, because
If any of you want to come up and take a closer look at this too, you're welcome to do that. And then we'll be down in that volunteer tent. Also, we've got a table set up down there too, so.
show them that one with the ambulance.
Oh, that's him and Oshkosh. He just had to do it one more time.
Look at that.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
This is my favorite picture.
This here.
It's watching, waiting, and wondering. You come down at the end of the mission and you wait to see if your planes were coming back. Or your buddies.
The bicycle from your tent to the...
Bicycles out there, yeah.
Yeah, they did. Use the bicycle.
Oh, yeah.
Take the bikes.
bunched up.
And there we are today.
And I broke my ankle. And don't ask me how I did it. And I told so many lies in order to do it. First I said I was running a marathon. Then I was chasing the girls. Then I finally had to tell the truth. I had a $3 hot dog. My God, I wasn't going to lose that hot dog. So anyway, we have a fly-in every year down at my airport, Log Cabin Airport. It's on something.
Oh, Facebook.
Facebook. And we have 150 airplanes come in. It's on the grass strip. I got my own sawmill and I got 100 acres and I built 3 log houses. In fact, I built my first log house without any electricity, just a chainsaw and hand drill and everything. And I met Judy and I was telling her about my log house. And she said, oh my, I must see that. So I got the candles lit, and I got the fireplace going, and I got the wine out on the back porch getting it chilled. And yeah, boy, I was getting romantic as heck. And she comes down, oh my, this is nice. She says, where's the bathroom? I said, I handed her a flashlight to go down there and walk to the office. Oh, I'll be back tomorrow or something. So then I got, as long as I'm picking on Judy, I might as well tell you.
Be careful, there's young children.
Well, they won't understand. So I had this pin with a Cub airplane. And she said, oh, can I wear that to work? She worked at a medical clinic or something. So she wore, the doctor said, oh, it's a nice airplane. You fly? Oh, yes, she says, I belong to my high club. So she comes home that night and I said, oh, this doctor asked me that and I told him he looked kind of funny. I said, do you know what it means? No, she said, I don't. So I told her, then she had to go back the next day and say, oh. So it is, we have a little humor in our relationship. Yeah. Yeah, you always say it's hell to get old, but boys, I'm 91 still going strong. I grew up here today, 100 miles. Not much traffic on Saturday.
Took you an hour?
But I got in the Veterans Association, I'm giving a hearing aid. But all this monkey business about the veterans, man, they had a lot of this true. I'm glad it's we got a veterans hospital 30 miles from us. And she calls up and they said, well, can you go to Coleman, that's another 200, or can you go to Minneapolis, that's 100 or something. Well, she says, can't I go to Chippewa Falls? Chippewa Falls. Now, how do you spell that? You know, so we go to Chippewa. But, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for writing it all down. Thank you for writing it all down.